This time around, we're going to take a look at duotones, okay? We're even going to look at something called quadtones here, but we're going to look at them as it pertains to photographers, okay? Because it's a duotone. It's a very graphic design-like thing, and you're going to see here in a second, where some of its roots come from. But what I want to do is kind of translate how you can use this as a photographer, because it's a nice way to tint a black and white photo. If you ever go to a gallery of some sort and you see a lot of fine art black and white work, you'll see that it's not all just black and white. It's got some kind of a color tint to it. I want to show you how you can do that. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is convert this to a black and white. So let's go to Image Adjustments. I'll go to my black and white adjustment. I'm going to crank up my yellows a little bit and even crank up my reds, which is going to make the rocks and the foreground really stand out. And then we'll take our blues down and maybe even the cyans down a little bit, and that's going to darken that sky. Okay, now we can tint right inside here. I can add a subtle tint to this. The problem is all it's really doing is just overlaying a color on top of it. Okay, and we don't get a whole lot of control over where this color goes, and that's where a duotone comes in. So I'm going to close that tint, and you can see the difference here. Even with a very subtle, 5% saturation, that's before, that's after. Okay, and you move it up to 10%, it even gets more pronounced. Okay, so a little bit of a color tint can help, but I just don't like the way that it adds it here, so I'm going to turn it off, but I will click OK to take the black and white. Now the next thing we're going to do is hop up here to the image menu, go to mode, and you'll see duotone is grayed out. That's because we have to convert over to grayscale first. Okay, so we convert to grayscale. We already turned it to a black and white, so it doesn't make any changes to us. Okay, then I go under here, I go to duotone. It's going to pop open a duotone options dialog box, and let's start off with the duotone option. Okay, what you're going to see here is lots of presets inside of this list. All right, and there's some pretty neat ones inside here. Like if I go with one of the brown ones, you'll see it adds kind of a brownish color. Tritone. If I go with one of these brown ones here, you'll see it adds a little bit of a brownish color. Look at the preview, before and then after. This is a little bit more subtle than what we were doing before. And why is that? It's more subtle because we can control where this color is getting added to. See this little curve over here? So we can control the color, and it says, Pantone 464. Don't let that scare you away. You can choose whatever color you like. A lot of these duotones were made for graphic designers who are communicating with a printing press, and they need to be exact about the color that's being used, because it can cost a lot of money if they're not. Okay, so they need to be exact, which is why all these Pantone colors were created. And that's why you'll see Pantone 464 or whatnot, because the designer knows what it is, the printing press knows what it is, so you can ensure the right color. As a photographer printing out to an inkjet printer or even sending to a lab, we don't care. All right, we can change it to any color we want, but most importantly, we can come in here to the curve, and you can change where your color is being applied to. So what do I mean by this? I'm going to take this curve and bring it all the way down. And at this point, what that means is that none of this brown color is being added to this image. All right, and even more so if I come up here, and you can see, let's bring our black down. See, when I bring my blacks down, it says no black is being added to the image. So that's actually probably even a better example. When the curve is flat, it's saying don't add any black to the image. When I bring this up, now I'm saying, okay, it's okay to add some black, and then I can come inside of here, and I can change where that black is getting added to. Okay, so I'm adding more black to certain parts. How do I know what parts? Well, just look below. You've got your whole tonal scale here, white to black. So what I'm saying is between here and let's say here, start adding black, but do it gradually. Okay, there's less black getting added to the whites than there is to some of these dark grays over here, or these middle grays. Okay, so let's cancel out of that part. Let's go back to color, because remember, we flatten this out so there's no color. Well, now if I crank up the right side, okay, but then I put another point and I lock this curve all the way down, watch what happens here. What I'm doing is I'm saying only add brown to anywhere where you see this shade of gray, this dark gray, all the way over to this shade of black, or which is all black. Okay, so anything between these two colors, go ahead and add brown to. Okay, so you see if I click OK, take a look. Before and an after. It's subtle. It's only getting added basically into the shadow areas. Now, if I do the opposite, and if I bring the left side up, and then I bring that curve downward, okay, now all I'm doing is adding brown into the extreme highlights, and you can see a little bit starting to creep in here inside of the clouds. So I'm saying between white and this light shade of gray, add some brown to there. Okay, so that's how these things are working. You can come inside here and you can start to tweak these curves, and you can change where your color is being added to the photo, which is different from what you can do with a tinting option inside of Photoshop. And that's the whole thing here, is we want to be able to be a little bit more targeted about where our color is getting added to. Okay, so I can pull it out of the highlights, but I can keep it into those shadows there. Maybe even pull it down a little bit and just get a little bit more of a subtle tint. Okay, hit OK, and let's look before and then after. So now I have a very subtle color. If you're ever walking through some type of a gallery, this is a lot like what you'll see. It's a very, very subtle color. It still looks like a black and white, but it's just a little bit more toned down. And then what's really neat is that you can come up here, try a quad tone, okay, and go up here to your presets if you load the presets. And what I'll do here, in your Photoshop CS4 folder, so you want to navigate to your Photoshop CS4 folder, and then you want to go to the presets folder. From there you go to duotones. From there you go to quad tones, and we'll go to the Pantone quad tones. The last one in the list here, I'm going to load it up. And this one's pretty neat. It adds a lot of different colors, quad tones, so it's 4 colors. All right? And you might not see all the colors like the red here, but if I start to take this curve down, you see that there was indeed that red. Okay, we don't see it so much when it's mixed in with all those colors, but we start to see it more when we take it away. Same thing with the blue, so you can see the green a little bit more. In fact, I would probably even tone this green down a little bit, because you can come in here and start to modify any one of these. Okay, and you get a really, really sharp black and white photo with a slight tint to it. It's much more rich, it's much more full when you start to add these colors into your black and white. So make sure you give it a try. Definitely some interesting possibilities that can come from it.